Well, today is the day. The chip giant SK Hynix set to debut on the Nasdaq in the United States in a blockbuster US share offering. It is actually bigger than Alibaba. And the big question is, should we buy? Should we buy out of the gate? Other people are asking, do we sell Micron? Do we sell SanDisk to get into SK Hynix? And we're going to break all of that down in this video, give you guys everything you need to know. I definitely have some thoughts in and around all of this. And many people are asking, like, do we wait a little bit for this thing to come out? Do we want to FOMO into this? A lot of other people already have exposure to SK Hynix, not directly, but indirectly through the DRAM ETF. This is an ETF that we had talked about on this channel months prior. That is the DRAM, DRAM ETF. And that's a great way to get exposure to it anyway. But all of that going to be covered in today's video. So let's get into it. There's a lot to cover, and hit that like button, subscribe for us if you have not already. Price action obviously has looked phenomenal on SK for a very, very long time. They're issuing quite a bit today in terms of their shares, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. This thing came together pretty fast, but let's get into it because people are asking, is it time to dump Micron? Like, is it time to dump some of these other assets? Well, SK Hynix controls 57% of the high bandwidth memory market. But United States investors couldn't easily access it until today when it goes live with the ADR listing. Micron surged 726% over the past year as the only major US-based memory producer competing at AI's highest levels. With the AI memory shortage expected to persist for years, owning both SK Hynix and Micron may be picking just one winner. And I agree with this. Now, again, SK Hynix set to go live, later today. But if you guys want to get into an asset that is going to get you exposure to all of this, the Roundhill Memory ETF has been live. Year to date, it's up 132%. And as you can see here, you can get exposure to SK Hynix. You can get exposure to Samsung. You can get exposure to Micron. Okay. SanDisk is in here. To me, this is one of the best ways to get exposure to this whole sector, okay, the high bandwidth memory sector. And it's come down pretty significantly from the top of June at 80. It's down to 62 right now. I've got some exposure to this in my long-term portfolio. I might even buy it in my individual portfolio. But to me, again, ticker DRAM, this is one option. Now, getting further into here, the analyst who called NVIDIA, basically was one of the analysts who called this big run in some of these other assets. And the AI boom has created winners across the semiconductor industry. Every AI server needs vast amounts of this high bandwidth memory and DRAM to feed increasingly powerful processors from NVIDIA and AMD. Without the memory, even the fastest chips just become a bottleneck. So no company has benefited more than Micron. And so a lot of people are asking, like, do I just get heavy on Micron because they were the kind of first American company? I don't think you really want to overthink this and overanalyze it and miss out on SK Hynix. I think you need to get exposure to Samsung as well. That's why I love the DRAM ETF. But I'm not going to be going and chasing and like flipping my entire portfolio, like, things that I have in Micron to go into SK Hynix and like go all in on it. Okay. The South Korean memory giant SK Hynix, they're massive. They're massive. And as we mentioned at the top, I mean, they control 57% of the high bandwidth memory, but that still leaves 43% of the market in other places, to Micron, to Samsung, and to some others. So you've got, here's your HBM market share. You got SK Hynix 57%, Samsung 22%. So right there, that is 79% of the market share. Now, if you're going to get an individual stock over in Korea, I would do it with SK Hynix. And I think getting some at some point is totally fine, right? Um, those numbers tell investors something important. While Micron has become the primary U.S. beneficiary of the AI memory boom, SK Hynix remains the industry's dominant supplier, no doubt about it. So, and you've got others making up about 11%. SanDisk a big part of this as well. But nothing about SK Hynix Nasdaq listing weakens Micron's business. Okay, it doesn't take this and like make it, a business that's not going to be doing as much in this area. It's not going to reduce their market share with this listing. And the memory chip maker remains, I think, one of the top stocks to own, and that's Micron. And so, again, I think you want exposure to all of this. Perhaps most importantly, Micron remains the only major US-based producer competing at the highest levels. And you could also make the argument that Micron will slowly but surely eat away at this market share over time, right? Like today, they only make up a small percentage of the market share, but Micron stock has delivered enormous gains already. And after a 726 run over the past year, I think that over time, Micron is going to eat into that market share and actually take more of that market share away. Now, SK Hynix gives U.S. investors something they haven't had before. It's access to the leader, direct access. Again, you can get in there with that DRAM ETF, but nobody's been able to really get direct access. But many American investors have owned Micron simply because it was the only most accessible pure play memory stock in the United States. And that's certainly, filtered into its success. But I think overall, I wouldn't go chase and put it all into SK Hynix or totally get out of my Micron and SanDisk to get into here. But high bandwidth memory has become the fuel powering modern AI systems. It is not going away. Memory is still the leading indicator and the leading way to get exposure to this AI build out. Now, we've talked about physical AI quite a bit. We have been advancing far beyond just talking about Micron and NVIDIA. A lot of these, channels out there on YouTube will simply talk about what's up 700%. We've been giving you names that have been flying under the radar, like BlackBerry. Okay, go back on my channel and watch what we talked about BlackBerry when we talked about it. It launched. That said, this is not a sell signal for Micron. Okay, this is not anything close to a sell signal for Micron. I think the memory shortage still has just a few names that are going to benefit immensely. And AI spending, if that continues rising and Micron controls 21% of the high bandwidth memory and 22% of the DRAM market, with the likelihood that they're going to eat away into that market share, I think we, again, want exposure to this entire space. So listen, getting into SK Hynix today, phenomenal, right? Phenomenal. I think it's going to be a phenomenal play. But I am going to continue to make sure I've got exposure to all of this. And we're watching a lot in the robotics space. Look at some of our tickers that we have that we're watching very closely. We're up today. Open Door is up right now. Pre-market over 10%. That is ticker open. We're watching that one very closely. BlackBerry up over 3%. Solaris, SEI. We're going to be talking about a lot of these names. Robinhood, rocking and rolling. GE Vernova. I mean, we have just dominated with GE Vernova. Like we told you about the energy space a long time ago. And we're up big on GE Vernova. Average cost $340. So we're going to continue winning in this AI race and in this AI space. Make sure you guys lock in, subscribe for more. I appreciate you all for watching. And let's see what happens today when SK Hynix goes live. Appreciate you guys. See you in the next video.